Hey, welcome back. Today I want to answer a quick question of what to do when people aren't taking my survey. That can be a good question. Now, particularly depending on the tool set that you're using, there can be a few different things you can try and adjust. Now, I'm going to talk about what to do if people aren't taking your surveys online, what to do if they're not taking it in kiosks, and what to do if people are reluctant to give feedback in general. So first, what happens if people aren't taking my survey online? First thing to do is think about distribution. How are you distributing your surveys? Is it a link on your website that you expect people to be able to find? Making it more prominent may be the answer. Is it something that's emailed out? Checking to make sure your mailing list is solid and that people aren't just getting something going to junk mail all the time can really be beneficial. Is it a QR code? Making sure that the QR code is easy to use, testing yourself, and making sure the survey platform that you use works well on a mobile device can also add a lot of benefits if you're using QR codes, because QR codes are rarely used on desktop computers. Now, what about if you're using a kiosk? Well, depends on the type of kiosk. If you're using something like a Happy or Not kiosk, making sure it's placed in the right location as it can be moved around, making sure it's not messed with. They're easy to tip over. They're easy to for kids just to tap the little buttons. Doing those type of things can help you make sure you get better feedback. If you're using a Pulse for Good feedback survey, using one of the kiosks, placement is a big issue. Making sure it's somewhere where you have enough traffic to drive people to it, but not so much traffic that people feel unsafe answering the questions. You don't want them to be people looking over their shoulder as they're taking the survey. That's not the goal. The goal is to provide a little bit of privacy, but enough traffic that people see it and can it acts as its own form of advertisements. Advertising is another great way. Throw up some posters around, let people know that you're interested in feedback. Have staff direct people to it. All of those things can help people get you the feedback you're looking for. Now, the final one is what happens if people aren't feeling safe or they're not giving me feedback that I'm expecting, even though they are answering survey questions. It's a great question, and really it comes down to psychological safety. How can you help people feel safer? How can you help them feel like the answers they're going to give are not going to have any retribution? And how can you increase the value add to them for taking the survey? Now, one of the easiest ways to increase the value add for taking the survey is acting upon what is offered in the survey. If you've been surveying people for a long time, say you've had a Pulse kiosk in for a year or two, you may not be getting results because people honestly don't believe you're going to do anything with the data. One of the best things you can do is to use the data. Share it. Share what you're going to do. Share the reason you're doing things. If people know that the reason new programs are implemented, the reason you got new shower curtains, the reason you got new computers, the reason you added Wi-Fi is because of survey responses, they're going to want to give more survey responses because they trust that it's been entered. If you do all these things quietly, they don't know if their feedback actually mattered. And the less their feedback matters, the more likely they are to just say, I'm not going to answer, or I'm not going to answer as honestly, or I'm not going to answer as completely. So advertise, make sure you're responding to feedback, close that feedback loop, make sure people understand that their voice matters and it's influencing your strategy and your tactics and your outcomes. Doing all of this should help you give and build an environment where people are more trusting and therefore more willing to give feedback. Now, none of this will be a quick fix, with the exception of maybe moving things around. All of these may take a little bit of effort, but the important thing is to keep going until you find the right way to be able to gather feedback from the people that you're dealing with.